Hey guys, Kurt from Time Machine Transport. So I'm heading out to the shop. Late. But anyways, so these nerd Jersey drones. Does anybody else think it's suspicious that this is all happening in the New Jersey area because if they, so now there's several, well, not a lot of prepping channels coming out and saying that these drones are sniffer drones, and that they're the U.S. And you should already know that they're U.S. military drones. It's not enemy, it's not aliens, it's not some other flagship out in the ocean. But does anybody else think it's odd that they shut down the East Coast longshoremen shut down at the ports for 3 days just a couple months ago? October something, I think it was. Yeah, I think October. Anyways, you have to look it up. But isn't that kind of fishy, pun intended, that the ocean ports on the East Coast all the way down into the Gulf Coast, that they all went on strike for 3 days, and it was resolved fairly easily. So what would that make it possible for, like, if these drones are nuke sniffing drones, that maybe somebody snuck, well, I wouldn't say somebody, I would say the deep state had the opportunity in those 3 days to check out my hat, I love it. That those 3 days that they could have moved stuff around, they could have, they knew where, that this, container with nuke stuff in it, or containers with nukes in it, or nuke stuff. I personally don't think that nukes are ever going to be used, because that's all out, like, you're going to obliviate the nation that uses nukes. And not only will the country where it goes off in, you're going to have a lot of other countries going dog shit, ape shit crazy after that nation, because whoever does it, either one, is not going to admit it, or two, if they do admit it, that's instant suicide. But is anybody seeing the same link on this stuff? Because you have 3 days the ports were shut down. 3 days the ports were shut down. And now this, if they are sniffing drones, and like I said, there are military's drones, man. They're not somebody else's drones. There are military's drones. But now that would make a lot of sense if all this stuff is, comes out to be true. That would give somebody 3 days inside of a New Jersey, New York port, to basically do whatever they want. And if you're the deep state, you just approach the president of the longshoremen for the union and say, hey, listen, we got this on you. Maybe he had an affair, maybe if he's one of them weird uncles, like, what you got going on back there type uncle, which is weird. And maybe they got something on the guy and they're like, hey, we want you to strike because we need this port to be unoccupied, because typically those ports are 24 hours. Actually, the work goes on 24 hours, but I think their hours of operation are like, 9 to 5, 8 to 5, 7 to 3, something like that. I don't think, although, I've gone into ports in my truck late, into Chicago, stuff like that. But those aren't water ports; those are just regular train station ports to pick up containers. But isn't that interesting that happened, and then a few months later, if these are sniffer drones, now they're trying to find this thing. Is this all intentional by the deep state or our government saying we're going to go ahead and say that we found this and we found ties to that container in the New Jersey port, New York port? I think it's the same, New Jersey and New York maybe. I think there might be one port, I'm not 100% sure. But our government comes out and says, hey, we are, we're going to shut everything down now. Martial law so that they can find these people, whatever the case is. It's not gonna end well for the American citizens. It's not gonna end well for us. And that's just my opinion and my prediction. I hope that we're wrong. But now, and if you paid attention to Trump's last televised news conference thing, was it yesterday, the day before? I think it was yesterday, about how he said he's canceling his trip. He obviously knows something's up. And where's Biden been lately? And Harris? Where I haven't seen anything on those two knuckleheads anywhere. So that's interesting. So I just think it very odd that that the longshoremen of the East Coast and the Gulf Coast went on a 3-day strike. They ended it pretty quickly with agreements till like the end of 2025 or 2020, early 2026 maybe. And then now you have all these sightings over Jersey. A little odd? I think so. Anyways, do your own research, man, and please like and subscribe to the channel. Ciao.